but I'm all alone, and my camera's frozen, so it looks like it's just my chair there. But I can see the ring around my other thing moving, so I know that you can hear me talking.
That's
I'm not
right.
actually a chair. Look it, I'm not here. Isn't that amazing? I'm
That is
talking, but I'm
amazing.
not here.
It's a trick.
It is. It's a magical trick. I'm figuring that out right now, sort of. But
Magic tricks.
yeah, I'm figuring out how I did this magic trick to myself. Allow
Yeah.
myself to introduce myself.
Well, what's nice is you can pop out a StreamYard with your video, and then there it goes.
Yeah, yeah. See
Do
the
magic.
things happen to the phone, and now they're not happening to the phone anymore. Look, oh, woo, I'm drunk.
All them sorts of crazy things be happening to your phone.
Yeah, damn picture taking device.
That damn picture thinking about it. Dude, I saw a meme. I'm trying to remember when, but it was something like it was a graph of it was contrasting the amount of UFO and ghost sightings with the invent of modern day cameras. And so around like 1900s, it just starts to drop off as camera technology increases. All the sightings like massively
All of a
decrease.
sudden, people ain't seeing them so often anymore. That's
Yeah.
funny because as a byproduct of camera in the modern day, I think people see a lot more ghosts and energy occurrences and shit than they actually see because they don't understand how like dust works, refraction
Yeah, yeah.
works, fucking sun lens flares, like all this kind of stuff. There's so many times in my life, like okay, so I was a professional photographer at one point in time, so I know a couple things about cameras, and
Awesome.
there is not like a single time in my life that someone's been like, dude, I saw this thing. I got a picture of it. And I'm like, all right, let me see the picture. That they showed it to me. And I'm like, oh, yeah, no, that happens all the time when the light's like this. Like, it never has once happened. I am very open to seeing a picture where I'm like, I can't fucking explain that. That is crazy. Because, like, the problem is I can usually explain it. You know what I mean? And that stops me from having all the fun of being like, holy shit, you have a picture of a ghost. You know what I mean?
Right.
I would like to do that. That sounds funner than being like, nah, this is dust. You know?
Right. Yeah.
That's boring. That sucks. I want to see a ghost too.
Have you seen I mean, I feel like I've definitely seen images. It's hard to tell because you don't know necessarily if it's the original, but I have seen some from people that they actually firsthand like printed images.
Aaron magically disappeared. The ghost took him away. I don't think he actually said. Did you remove yourself from the stream on purpose, or what happened? We got technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen. There's a ghost in the machine. No. Yeah. If you have a picture that you think has a ghost in it, I'd love to see it. You do not have to hear my analysis of it. I'll save you. But I would like to see it, especially if it's very, very believable to you. Just because I would really love to see one that's actually real. Like, I'm totally open to the idea that ghosts are there. Like, I mean, functionally, despite the fact I have not seen a ghost, I believe in ghosts because by the way that I personally understand energy in my own mind, I don't know whether anybody else understands it that way. It's not really important. Functionally, a ghost is like an inevitable occurrence. So I very much so believe they are there, but, you know, I'd like a picture would be cool. Aaron, why'd you run away? Did the ghost take you?
Yes, it was the Wi-Fi ghost. It was popping in and out of Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
but I'm not
it was
moving
like
anymore,
Pac-Man,
so
and one of the ghosts
yay.
got you. And then, but you came back, and now you're eating dots again. Bop, 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 bop,
Yep,
bop, bop.
that's me. The Pac-Man
That
guy.
really is us, by the way. I'm not going to go into the analysis of Pac-Man, but it really is us. It's kind of crazy. Anyways,
Pac-Man?
why'd you? Yeah. You
go.
are the Pac-Man.
Okay. Continue. You're gonna have to continue now. I'm not following the metaphor. Or now.
Oh, what? You want me to leave a trail of dots for you, you little yellow mouth?
Yes, please. Sounds good.
Nope.
regularly. Zach, I really like this mood you're in today. This is
The
fun.
functional idea, basically, that you're going after the thing that you desire, but the process of you, like you're being drawn towards the dot, right? Like you want to collect the dots to get a higher score so that you can be on the high score list in the long run. You want to leave a good legacy through the desires that you go after and acquire, right? So you're trying to do that, but functionally at the same time, you're also running away from like your fears, your demons, your difficulties, or just even you could call it your past is very much so pushing you forward, but you're trying to take an efficient direction forward to acquire your desires in the process of that. But in the good time, you're able to capture something, a bigger dot, that allows you to turn around and face your demons, not only facing them, but actually devouring them and adding them to your legacy. And that's literally what you're doing with your life. It's pretty cool.
I can dig that.
Pac-Man was a
it works.
sure hit. And that's why Miss Pac-Man was a sure hit. Because it's the same game.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Same game, different sex of the yellow dot.
Yeah. Oh, it's a girl now. It was just a mouth. How's it a guy or a girl? Well, it has a bow on its head.
Yeah, I was gonna say they put a bow on him. Or her. Or it.
On her. It's her because she has a bow on her head. But technically, I feel like while we're busy tearing down every statue in America, regardless of what it actually meant, because that guy's a racist, and all these other various things that we're changing, that some of them are completely nonsensical, we also should remove the genderization of the great Pac-Man, because Pac-Man was non-engendered and androgynous. I did not think of Pac-Man as a man, but rather a Pac-human.
Pac person.
So it wasn't until Miss Pac-Man that Pac-Man became a dude, because he's not Mr. Pac-Man. He's just Pac-Man, androgynous Pac-Man. And then with Miss Pac-Man, he suddenly becomes Mr. Pac-Man. And right there, that shows you how the engenderization of Miss Pac-Man already affected society and the psychology of people therein. And I believe transgender individuals, fuck it, indie individual, I think you should believe you're whatever sex you want, even if you made it up, because I don't care what you do with your reality. So I don't think that should happen, and we need to change that game.
Well played.
I'm fucking pissed now. I'm heated.
Yep.
Very heated. So fucking heated.
On the ghost topic and camera technology, because I was dipping in. Have you seen? What's your take? I definitely feel like I've seen orbs that are definitely lens flares. I know what a lens flare looks like. I've seen ones that are weird, but okay, that could be a lens flare. Especially as like you're moving the camera. Like there's a flare clearly there before you take the picture, during you take the picture. But then there's other times it's not there until I take the picture, or multiple dots or orbs that I'm like, I have not been able to explain those, and I've seen those consistently in other people's photos and my own over time. What's your experience with that, or insight on that?
Do you have a picture of it that you could show me?
I do on Facebook. When I was in Alaska, I'd have to go. Let me see if I can pull up another tab. If I can find it. And then that'd be an interesting one. I think that one. I'm trying to think that one. I don't believe it was off like a water droplet, and it could have been the light refracting or something. That one wouldn't be like the definite one. This one's something, but it's another one that's like could be a lens flare, but it also maybe is something else. I don't know. But I've had one. Here's an interesting one. So I had, not that I can show you, but I can tell you about it as I'm looking up an actual one to look at. Back in the day, gosh, what would that be, like 2008? We were all hanging out in the church, a big group of us afterwards, like after hours, hanging out in there and just having fun. And, we were playing music or just screwing around, having a good time. And so we were talking, the orb concept had come up. Somebody had been to a conference, and then they saw these orbs. They took pictures of them, were showing us pictures. And so they were taking pictures just around the room. And I said, look, there's going to be an orb right here, and took a picture. And like when he just snapped the picture, like right when I did that, there's an orb right above my finger. That was pretty cool.
Got it. That's amazing.
It was
Are
pretty
you a
amazing.
wizard?
I don't know. Maybe I'm a time traveler.
That could be what it is. It could just be the wizard stuff.
It could be.
Yeah.
All right. I'm not going to find it like right away, so we're going to have to carry on conversation, but I'll see if I can find it.
Well, I mean, I do have a very important message to screen share with the people.
Please do.
So,
if this comes relevant again, they'll pull it up, and if not, don't worry about it. I'm very flexible.
We need a free Pac-Man from gentrification.
Ooh, I'm actually...
It's very important.
You could probably take the Pac-Man and make all the genders out of them. Put a bow on them. Put a I don't know. What are all the terms now? I know sapiosexy, like on some dating apps and astrology apps or whatever social media apps, picking your gender, or you can have multiple. So people are like demisexual, sapiosexual.
That's not your gender. That's who you want to fuck.
What's a demisexual though? I haven't Googled that one.
I don't know. I could check it out right now. Let's see.
Do it.
Demisexual definition. We're probably going to find out. Wait, I am that. Maybe not. I don't know what it is. Where is it? Here is where it is.
Booyaka. Found it.
Demisexuality is a sexual orientation where people only experience sexual attraction to folks that they have close emotional connections with. Okay. So, like, you have to actually like the person before you want to have sex with them.
Wow.
Apparently, that's a fucking
That's a
delineation.
thing.
All right. Our society is
Okay.
completely healthy. Anyways, what were you saying about these silly sexualities? They're so funny to me because, like, sapiosexual is another one. That means that I'm attracted to people with a high intelligence. Things that are interested in their evolution are attracted to things with a high intelligence.
Mm.
That's not like some, niche sexuality.
Yeah.
Everything likes that. Everything
work.
likes that. I get
does
that
work, though.
sapiosexual is like that's what really turns me on. But
Yeah.
most people that say they're sapiosexual actually just like smart people, and they don't want to talk to dumb people, and they certainly don't want to date one. They're
Yeah,
not
fair
actually
enough.
sapiosexual.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
not like, yeah, I mean, you look like a fucking nerd and you got warts all over your face, but I'm telling you, man, I want to suck that dick because the rate at which you crunch differential equations is just baffling. It's unbelievable to me. And the ability to not only do that, but also carry on creating a wonderfully abstract painting with depth of meaning, knowledge, and soul inside of it simultaneously. I don't care what you look like. I still want to bone you rotten. That's sapiosexual. Okay, like your mind is so amazing. I don't give a fuck what your body looks like. And most people who say they're sapiosexual actually just like smart people.
Okay, so let's refine the smart people, or expand it a little bit. So it's not just like crunching numbers and like, nerd smart in that sense. The way I've interacted with that socially online, is being able to carry like emotional intelligence, be more types of intelligence, a broad diversity of being able to articulate, communicate, and have like a linguistic and social intelligence also. So
I
beyond
think
just
we should include the delineation in that being able to crunch numbers does not make you intelligent. It makes you logical.
Fair enough.
So intelligence is something different.
Maybe there's a logical sexual logiosexual.
Hey man, if there is, I wish I would have met him because it seems like there's not one of those things. It seems like my logic actually has done a very good job of making my girlfriends hate me sometimes. Like, why don't you have any emotions? And I'm like, because I'm a fucking robot. What do you want from me? I'm a good robot, though. I am a very high quality robot.
I would concur.
Beep boop.
Meep. All right, hold on. I got the.
Yeah.
So let me share. Hold
Executing protocol.
It pulled up.
Dude,
it did pull up. Okay. Here's some of my Wordpicks from Alaska. This is when I was out in the.
Okay, I want to say at the very beginning, you're shooting macro photography of a highly refracted spherical surface that is in direct light. So we're just begging for light refractions.
Okay, so I'm looking at it now. I'm like, oh yeah, I could see it right off that water. Okay, right here, off this water. Hold on, come on, right off that water droplet. That to the left.
That 100,000% is a lens.
Is from the water droplet.
Yeah, but it's not like it's not something cascading off of the lens, or I mean off of the water drop. It's when the light is being collected by the lens, since that light is rounded and bent, some of it is getting reflected in a way that the glass inside the lens is then also picking it up, and the sensor is then picking up that as well.
Oh, it totally makes sense. And look at this one. So you've got the big drop and then the big orb in the middle bottom, and you've got the little drop, and then the top left, you've got another orb. So yeah, it totally makes sense. See, I'm always open on that shit. I just hadn't really, I've looked at it and I just hadn't thought about it.
It's because this is happening. Like it's going bounce, bounce, bounce. You know what I mean? So it's basically like doing a Z inside of there when it's supposed to just be coming straight in and getting collected. It's coming in, bouncing, and then going back in straight.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But you can. That's why it looks all out of focus, is because that light is like inside the fucking lens, and the focus is set outside of that range because no lens can focus inside of the lens. So it's always out of focus like that.
All right. Yeah, makes sense.
Lens can't focus that close. You know what I mean? It's like putting a fucking thing like literally right in front of your eye. No matter what you do, you can't focus on it. Same thing with putting something right in front of a camera lens. Standard camera lenses actually don't trap focus anywhere closer than 18 inches away.
Right, and then okay, now
So this
am I
belief that
maybe
like I can make the thing be bigger by just moving my camera closer, yes and no. You
so
can't
is that would
actually
that
get a crisp photo
would
like
that be
that. You
based
might
on
think
your
it's crisp,
aperture?
but you just didn't blow it up enough to see how not crisp it is.
Is it the aperture that determines focal length?
Aperture determines the depth of the focal field. So when you're
Okay.
looking into the depth of a picture, there's going to be a layer inside of that space that you are focused on. Unless you're at infinite focus, in which case it's basically everything beyond this layer is as in focus as it's going to get. But realize infinite focus is not actually focused. It's that like everything out here, I'm focusing so far away that everything basically that it sees in this focal out there
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
in focus, and that's everything that I can see. But none of it is actually in a tight focus. In order to be in a tight focus, it needs to be bracketed. There needs to be behind it is out of focus, in front of it is out of focus, but it is in focus. That's the only way to actually get a truly in focus and clear photo. So that
Yeah.
space in between the out of focus areas, that is aperture. But aperture has a lot of different effects on how much light is being
Yeah.
captured
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
But what it's really adjusting in terms of what you can see is basically it, a lot of people would say it adjusts the depth of field, but it technically doesn't
Mm.
really. Okay, it aperture determines how big the band is in the
Hmm.
depth of field. When you're focusing your camera, right? Like so the bottom of the scene here is the front of the picture, right? And
Yeah.
the top of the scene is all the way back in the picture. And when I'm focusing, and let's say I have a whatever, we'll call this a 3.0 aperture lens, right?
Hmm.
When I'm focusing, when it's closest focused, it's right here. And then as I turn the focus thing, this moves out here until it gets to this point out here where it's like everything out there is in focus, right? Because now
Okay.
the aperture band is what the fuck? I can't hold my hands straight because I'm looking at the camera. So the aperture band is like up here, right?
Hmm.
So if this space right here was like a 3.0 aperture, then double that would be a 6.0 aperture, right?
Mm.
So that's changing that amount of space. The depth of field is a matter of what the aperture is and where the focus is set. What most people think when they say depth of field is actually this thing moving through here, but this is also a function of the depth of field.
So I think
So,
on my camera, it's got two front face or either back or front facing lenses. One's I think 1.8 aperture, or and then one's 2.4 or whatever. They're slightly
mhm.
different. And I think so. The lower the aperture, the better it is for macro or close up photography. Is that correct?
That's usually the case because okay, the lower the aperture, the crisper the focus will be, but the
Huh.
less space that will be in focus, so the more
Totally.
precise you have to be. But the more
That makes
precise
sense.
you're being is reflected in the more precise that the light is when it's collected by the camera.
Huh.
So the picture is crisper.
That makes
But like
sense.
if you're gonna
I
shoot
mean,
at like a distance, you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
longer lenses are never gonna come like that. I mean, like if that lens is, I mean that is if that's a really high aperture, right? Like stuff below 2.5 is really good aperture basically. Because
Yeah.
really we don't have much. There's like a handful of lenses that are really nichey that go below one aperture. But
Hmm.
predominantly, even at the prosumer level, everything is 1.2 or above. And the 1.2s are only like basically portrait prime lenses, meaning stuff that's like the 35 to maybe 70 millimeters. Will
Hmm.
you get something that's as low as 1.2? A really, really popular 1.2 is the Canon 50 millimeter L lens, which is
Hmm.
their prime portrait lens. It's their top, their best portrait lens, right? And it's a
Yeah.
1.2 aperture. And it's a fucking great lens. Like, I mean, if you're looking for a portrait lens and you got 2Gs, that's the one you want. So,
And then
having
telephoto
said that,
lenses.
if you are not a guy who wants to spend 2Gs on a lens and you want a picture that's about 4% as good as that, you can get it for $50 with their 1.8 aperture 50 millimeter lens. It's only $50 from them. It's made out of plastic and it does almost exactly the same job, but it's 1/1 millionth of the price. Anyways, going on.
Well, you said it was only 4% is good though.
No, it's 4% less good, meaning it's like
Oh, gotcha.
96% of the whole. The
Gotcha.
standard user probably would never recognize the difference between a Canon 1.2 50 millimeter and a Canon 1.8 50 millimeter. They'd probably
Yeah.
never notice unless you told them. But
Yeah.
the price difference they would notice because the price difference is about $1,900.
Yeah, no doubt. And then doing telephoto with telephoto lenses, those are like f8 or way up there, right?
Oftentimes, the really good, so there's like a Canon 70 to 200 millimeter L lens, and Nikon or Nikkor has a kind of like a complementary one to basically every Canon lens. And then if you want like really good lenses, you can get Zeiss lenses, but Zeiss mostly works in primes, and their primes are what they're really shine for. But you can get at the like the prosumer level where you're spending top dollar, right? You
Hmm.
can get like 70 to 200 that's just like a 2.8,
Hmm.
really expensive. I think you can get longer primes. When you're saying telephoto, technically telephoto means that it's like telescope photo, right? So
Yeah.
whether that does not usually to people that means long lens. To
Yeah.
some people that means lens that's capable of changing focal length, meaning
Huh.
going from 70 to 200 millimeters in one lens.
Yeah.
So, and the verbiage gets kind of smeared there. When you're changing the range, it because of the mechanics, like literally physically how the lens is built, it's harder to get a low aperture. So the lower the apertures are generally like so a Canon 200 millimeter L lens can come with a lower aperture, and it ain't by much though, because well, Canon makes really good lenses, especially at their prosumer level. But
Hmm.
nevertheless, it comes at a lower aperture than their 70 to 200. Not usually like the aperture would kind of be set by the top end of the lens, right?
Hmm.
So when we have these ones that are variable focal length, oftentimes it will quote a range of minimum aperture on the
Hmm.
range. But even still, like the tightest focal length, its aperture will not be comparable to something that was prime at the same focal length. So if I took a 70 to 200 millimeter, bought the best one, highest aperture, like, fastest aperture possible, lowest number aperture on the 70 millimeter end of the spectrum. And I
Hmm.
compared that to a 70 millimeter prime lens. It does nothing but 70 millimeter, and it was the top of the line one. It's guaranteed smaller aperture. Guaranteed. Just
Hmm.
because of the function that, like, if it's going to be able to zoom, it takes away from the maximum capability of that. So,
That makes sense.
nevertheless,
Do you feel like
you
the
can get them lower, but you can definitely buy ones that are the aperture ain't good. If you're gonna shoot in really high light, it really doesn't actually matter, especially if you're gonna shoot at a long distance. You know, most
hmm.
people for the photos that they take, they honestly shouldn't even give a fuck about the aperture of their lens because they try to get the entire frame in focus. And if your pictures have the
Yeah.
entire frame in focus, the aperture of your lens does not mean anything.
Yeah. Well, and I think they have now different settings on there, especially with the dual cameras and stuff, where they do like live focus or total focus. So it takes multiple pictures of the same shot at
Focus
different focal
racking
lengths.
is what we called that when we were doing it
Yeah.
manually, which is basically to just like you set the camera on a tripod, which that's what they're doing. They keep the camera still, and then you take like a focal. So I was already doing this thing. You'd take this band, and then you'd take this band, and then you'd take this band,
Yeah.
and then this band, so that and then you stack these photos
Yeah.
together, basically choosing
So
using an algorithm inside of a photo editing program, or maybe they have a
yep.
software for that right on the phone that
Yep.
basically picks the most in focus pixel, and it does a pixel by pixel analysis of the images that have been taken. And when that analysis comes back, it picks the ones that are the clearest for every pixel in the frame, and then makes a new image out of the best quality pixels
Yes.
based on its analysis. So,
Totally, and it carries over. It's same technology on a super macro, I guess, microscope. So like, I've got a microscope, and you get different lenses for it. You get different focuses. The
mhm.
highest priced and quality ones are infinity lenses, and infinity planar lenses. Because with the zoom ins, you can really tell, and you can tell us on different binoculars and things too. The clarity of the image is in the center of the image, and
Mhm.
so you might have that much field of view, but the real clear image is in
Yeah.
here. So the planar lenses, it really expands it out for the whole thing, and
Yeah,
then the
because what you're
infinity.
actually looking at is a spherical thing. And so
Mm,
the edges are flattened, right? Like you're actually looking at something that's like this, the way that it collects light, because it looks out like that. So it collects
yeah,
light like this. Okay? So, but then it's flattened out as an image, and as a byproduct of that inevitable flattening, basically, that
Mm.
the edges of the image are never going to be in focus,
And it
actually.
does the software that comes with this the camera. I got a camera for it too. Is a trinocular? I'm trying to remember all the term. When I dive into something, I dive in like full for months or whatever, fully saturate myself with it. Then I get removed from that knowledge for a while and start to rack my brain back with all the information. But they had the trinoculars have a top one too, so you can have a camera going down and looking at the same thing. So you can have that on a screen. You don't have to actually have your eyes on it, but you can do both. And then the software in there does what you're talking about. So it'll do, so you just take micro adjustments as you zoom in, and there are different
Mm-hmm.
layers, and it takes pictures along the way and then claps them to one picture. So you have not just like one little thing, but all the nuances and all the edging and everything around it is super hyper in detail or in focus, which is really nice.
Cool. Yeah, yeah. If you're trying to get that super detailed macro shot, the focus racking is fucking the way to go. So,
Focus racking. Dig it.
yeah. Having
34,
said that, if you're
34.
trying to get a photo that people are like, really like, hey, that's so good, like you want to make use of the out of focus part. People feel that a photo is more professional when part of it is out of focus.
Mm.
And this is an inevitable byproduct of most people really like the amateur photographer mind just tries to get the frame as in focus as possible. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Automatic settings on a camera, especially in modern day, generally just try to get the most of the frame in focus as possible because they're not really sure what you're trying to shoot at. You're probably not really sure. You're not exactly a photographer. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So, nevertheless, like people then equate that to like, oh, part of it's out of focus on purpose. Like, you know.
Ooh,
So,
fancy. Yeah.
one of the best ways to do that actually is to like shoot like this thing that you have right here with a telephoto lens, and
Mm.
then everything here would have actually been in focus, but then just go in a picture editing app and put a layer over the top of it that's the same exact layer but blurred out, and
Oh
then
yeah.
mask it out over the top of the thing that you actually want in focus. And you can look like you just had this perfectly crisp set focus because the whole fucking thing was in focus, and you just created that literally with a
Yeah,
mask.
yeah.
So,
Which is what pan and tilt usually I think are what they call them on the settings for phones to
yeah.
do that similar effect.
That's if you want to get a lens sometime that's fun to play with, buy a tilt shift lens. They're really
Yeah,
weird.
that one.
Super weird. It's like
Tilt shift.
they're hard to understand in a sense, even like just because like depending on certain things, like when you're changing the focus, it's I mean you already know this, but for anybody who doesn't know what a tilt shift
Mm.
lens is, normally focus moves just in and out like this. Tilt shifting allows you to turn your focus basically so that it's like this or even angled on a dimension where you kind of can't see with me right now. And then when you're changing the racking of the focus, it's going through now like this, even though you're looking straight at the thing. And you can create some really weird effects with this that you literally cannot create with a standard lens or even with post-processing if you do really clever shit. You can create a very easy like tilt shift effect with post-processing just by doing like a gradient layer and then putting it at basically like a low opacity. Super
Mm.
easy. And you can even like adjust the angle of the shift and everything in post. But if you do tilt shift that goes in depth, then like that's almost impossible to actually mimic, and you can get some fucking sweet effects. Like the idea of like uh, so here's an idea that I always had but never did because I took
Mm-hmm.
a really cool picture with a tilt shift lens of just like looking down like a railing on a pier, right? And like there
Mm.
was people walking by over here and it was like completely blurred out, and there was like the waves coming in over here and it was completely blurred out, and it was really just like two really cool like where am I? Like blurred motions on either side. And then really tight down the center was this railing that was actually tilt shifted so that down the railing was in focus, but everything else was fucking blurred. And it was just so cool because it was like this crisp, clean dividing line of all this like blurred movement on either
Yeah,
side. But then I thought about that exact same thing, but with a skateboarder doing a trick on the rail. And now I was like, man, that would be amazing. But shit,
that
this
is
is
a
a lot
great
of work.
idea. Yeah.
So, yeah, I have lots of great skateboarding photo ideas, but I didn't take photos when I did skateboarding. And I'm never going to do skateboarding photography either because I have a friend who's the god of skateboarding photography, and I just don't even want to compete, honestly.
Yeah.
He wins. I admit it. Keith Libzinski,
Mm.
you're a much better photographer than me. You already know that, though. So,
Shout
I
out.
mean, we can take a quick look at some of Keith Libzinski's
Do it.
work here, we'll just head over to the National Geographic website. Fucking Jesus Christ. No, I'm literally just gonna go to
Grim.
Google Images of Keith Libzinski and then click through some of these because this guy's like, he's the fucking god of photography in my opinion. Look at some
Awesome.
of this shit. You see this already? Just like that, you're already like wow.
Wow.
Look at this bad boy right here. Oof, just oof on this one. What are we doing here?
Wow.
Look at this. Look at this. Oh my
Dude,
lord.
tornado images have to be some of the most
Are
captivating
you
images
seeing
like
this?
that
Why
I've
is
ever
this not
taken.
updating? This is not even where I'm at. Oh, I see. It opened a new tab. Yeah, that's not what I meant to do. But I do want to look at this one too. Why does that do that? Can I just open image in new tab? Does that give it to me? And then I can zoom in. Yeah, that'll be fine. And then, so here's the tornado image first. Go, 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 go. There's the tornado. We'll make it bigger.
Yeah.
Boom.
Keith Libzinski.
So supercells are
Jeez,
super
man.
awesome.
No
This
doubt.
is definitely, I mean, all of his shit's shot on full frame sensor cameras, obviously at massively high resolution. Any blurriness that you see in the image, I assure you, is compression or the stream or on purpose. So, no mistakes going down here. So on another note, he also does like really cool underwater photography, and oh my god, this
Cool.
picture is just so cool, man.
What's that of?
It's like a coral reef or something, man. And but you can tell that it's
Oh
like
yeah.
externally lit.
Oh.
Like you can tell because of the rocks how they're lit on the front side, right? Like so those
Yeah.
are flashed, obviously. And he's
Right.
illuminating under the water too. But
Yep.
like, oh my god, dude. What the hell?
Yeah.
But like just look at this
Well
stuff
done.
that this guy shoots, man. Shooting for Adidas. He's he's
Oh
he's not
man.
even much of a climber himself, but he definitely does get up on cliffs quite a lot.
Apparently. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just allow that. He literally revolutionized skateboarding photography. Yeah, when I say he's the god of skateboarding photography, I don't mean he's really good. I mean prior to Keith Libzinski, skateboarding photographers did not use external lights to generate media. Okay,
Huh.
Keith Libzinski brought the idea of studio lighting out to the street and started taking pictures of skateboarders with it. And he completely cornered the skateboarding photography industry. Like Keith Libzinski was the guy to go to for a long period of time, and now the guys to go to are all guys who shoot in Keith's style. He literally revolutionized the way that skateboarding imagery is shot. And so it's not just like a thing I say. I mean, like, literally, he changed the game. You know what
Wow.
I mean? So here's some highlining. Really great. You can tell external lights on this guy too. Like you can see
Yep.
that he's flashed
Yep.
somehow. Like
Yep.
that's amazing. He's out in the middle of nowhere. How'd you
No,
even
they
do
had a
that?
helicopter with a big flash
Honestly,
bulb or
dude,
something out
I
there.
could see Keith having somebody or he himself while he shoots the picture flying a drone with a
Oh,
light
duh,
on it, dude. I
nowadays.
could totally
Yeah.
see him doing it. I've seen him do all
Yeah.
kinds of weird shit. So horses, really capturing that movement. He's been all over the world at this point in time, shooting all kinds of stuff for
Obviously,
like
yeah.
all these outdoor companies that are in the climbing and camping and mountaineering space, and then also shooting for National Nat Geo as well. So tons of really good shit, really good portrait photographers, crazy ice climbing, ESPN, North Face, Apple, Nat Geo, Mountain Hardware, Adidas. Like he's shot for some people that are all right. The disposition of this imagery is really great. I
Wow.
really like it.
Wow, is that a nuclear power plant back?
It is a cooling tower for a nuclear power plant in the background.
Wow.
How much can we zoom before it makes us break? Not
It
really very
broke.
much at all.
Yeah.
So
It broke.
yeah, broke it. Skateboarding. This is a cool
Nice.
image.
Yeah, it is.
That looks safe. Yeah, so Eddie Bauer, Red Bull,
Yeah.
Goal Zero, shot for Nikon, New Balance, Arc'teryx. Like, it's ridiculous. Subaru, Harley Davidson. Like, it's just ridiculous. Budweiser. Like, oh my gosh, man. This guy is basically like the photographer's dream. This cave right here is so amazing. It's called the Hurricane down in well, it's outside of St. George, Utah. It's actually outside of Hurricane, Utah. Thus the name Hurricane. It's the cave at Hurricane, but that's St. George people know that more. But this is our buddy Joe Kinder. He put up a couple of routes on there. Joe's a fucking great guy too. But this image was used like 9 million different places because Joe's a heavily sponsored athlete as well. And this image was used in Joe's basically like media kit a million places. This shit has been so many different places. Penguins, Gedu Valley in China. Look at how cool that light is coming through those limestone fucking corridors right there. Isn't that amazing? How amazing is that? I would like to go to the Gedu Valley at some point in time.
Ooh, those sun's crepuscular rays coming through there? That's probably what that is, huh? Coming through the cave, the sun?
Yeah, there's sun rays.
There's a big hole in there. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, there's all kinds of these big, like, well, they're just limestone domes, just like this cave that you see at bottom right. There's some of those in the Gedu Valley that actually go all the way through the massif, basically, and it's just like a big, gigantic tunnel. Prana, of course. I actually think... Huh. I think that might be Mario. Anyways, Ebony Magazine, Black Diamond, like all this stuff is just so good. This guy's considered by many like the best mountain climber ever. He was the first guy to ascend all 7 summits on all 7 continents without supplemental oxygen.
Wow.
Yeah, so much cool shit, man. And he can shoot everything, you know what I mean? Like the cool night scene, the fucking polar bear, making use of the cool ice textures, fucking portrait photography. You want him to get underneath the water and shoot an alligator? No problem. But all you got is a fucking tree? Got you. I got you. It's all good. Just give me a camera and point me in a direction, and I'll look at this. Look at this thing. Look at this image. Like our man.
I've seen hundreds of Easter Island images. I've never seen one that good. That's amazing.
Exactly. That's how I feel every single time I ever look at Keith's photography. I'm like, oh yeah, I tried to shoot that place once. Didn't fucking look anywhere near as good as that.
You know what's nice? You know what's nice about being an excellent photographer?
Oh man, he cheats with the light. By the way, realize this guy, like, there's very few things in life that I think anybody has like a natural talent. And he has a natural talent in the photography space, but it isn't his natural talent. To just say it the way that I always joke about it. For some reason, basically, God loves him and gives him the perfect light. Like, this guy's light cheats. I don't know why. The natural lighting is so amazing whenever Keith shows up. It's like an angel has walked into the room, and the lighting is now perfect. It's amazing, dude. Like, and this image is such a good example of it. Like, the light itself. This image could have nothing in it, just the light, and it would be like, oh, that's very pleasing. Like, this is already a good image.
Oh, and look,
it's got the light.
It's got a lens flare ghost orb, too.
Yeah, there's actually 2 ghosts in the image, of course.
Of course.
So yeah, look at how cool this image is.
Wow. Beautiful. And again, he's got underlighting underneath the chin of the dog, and yeah, that makes a huge difference. The way he's using extra lighting, it's awesome because it doesn't look unnatural. It just adds to the image. It doesn't take away from it, which is really hard to do when you're doing natural photography.
It's so good, man. Everything he does is just so good.
You know what's nice about being a professional photographer?
Look at how fucking beautiful that is.
Ah. I'll have to wait the comics. Another one comes up. We get excited about it.
No, go ahead. What are you talking about?
So it's amazing or nice about an amazing photographer like that is your soul's like you enjoy, like obviously I imagine this guy he's satiated doing these things and traveling and all this, whatever else he does besides the photography, but the fact that the photography itself provides an excellent living for him and it's totally amoral. Like it doesn't matter what your profession. There's like nothing to contest with being a photographer at all, like with your politics.
What do you do? I take pictures of what? Basically everything?
Everything.
How do you argue with that? That's like the most agreeable profession you could ever have. Right. What do? I capture moments in time. What kind of moments? Just like whatever.
All kinds. And then get paid lots of money because I do a really good job at it. Yeah. So
you actually make money capturing moments in time? I mean, a little bit. He's all humble and shit. He'd tell you he makes a little bit. Dude's probably pulling $500,000 a year taking pictures. And he's they're paying him to travel all over the world to take the pictures, BT dubs. Yep. And what's funny is, like, where Keith comes from, Keith was doing that because he wanted to do that before he was ever getting paid to do that. Him and another friend of ours, Andy Mann, decided at one point in time that they were like, I think climbing media is really going to be like a good way to go. And I mean, they were absolutely right. This was a good read, and they started like a little media company, and like it was a very short period of time, like the next outdoor retailer, because Andy Man is also a fantastic photographer. By the next outdoor retailer that came around, if you don't know it, in the outdoor industry in Salt Lake City, once a year there is a giant get together where all the big names in outdoor industry gear and such all meet at that place. And if you're trying to get sponsored as an outdoor athlete, if you're trying to promote an outdoor good, or you're trying to get a job as an outdoor photographer and you are not going to outdoor retailer in Salt Lake City, you're failing. Okay? Like it ain't gonna work. So, nevertheless, uh, by the time the next outdoor retailer came around, they had created like a cool little climbing video, and they also already had their own body of work. Keith was already pretty well known from the skateboarding photography and shit. And just like right away, they got picked up by all these huge companies. And it was the year that Adidas bought into the outdoor industry by buying out this shoe company called 510, and which was like a really reputable company in the industry. But in fact, so much so that now that Adidas owns them, they still actually use their brand, which usually when something like, especially being as 510 sells shoes, right? So did you know that Adidas sells some shoes that are named 510 too? It's the exact same ones. So it's kind of weird though, because normally if a shoe company would buy it out, they may keep the model, but they would put their own branding on it. But the brand was actually strong enough that they kept the brand, even though they did move Adidas into the outdoor space for outerwear and shit like that. Nevertheless, Adidas came into the outdoor industry with a big bunch of money, and they gave a whole slew of it to Keith and Andy to create a whole bunch of imagery and video and stuff of the first athletes that they sponsored at the same outdoor retailer, because Keith and Andy were already friends with a lot of these athletes. And so it was like a good mix. And after he got done working with them, like, I mean, now he is like real reputable company underneath his belt. And like, it was all uphill from there, you know. Now Red Bull wants to talk. Nat Geo wants to hire you. We're not doing the media thing anymore because we're both paid National Geographic photographers now. Like, why start up our own media company? That was like a half-assed version of the dream we wanted, but now we got a real dream, so it's all good.
Yeah, no doubt.
Speaking of that, actually, I have like a bunch of stuff to work on. I've been like scripting all day and fucking talking up a storm, and apparently it's gone well though, because I'm in a good mood. I took a nap. I got a back rub and I took a nap.
Yeah, you're
quite
bouncy today, Zach.
Like this
It's making
dog.
me feel good. I like it.
Like the dog.
I dig it.
Arf. Arf.
So when you said scripting, what do you mean scripting?
I mean writing scripts for computer stuff.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Any particular projects you're on right now that you're digging?
Oh, really? This stuff is actually just fucking around with a game, and so it's just scripting for the game, really.
Cool.
But like, okay, so I'm like, I have these phases a lot. When I'm generating momentum, I have a tendency to do things that I will have identified over my life are very like functional and consistent ways of generating momentum towards things. And it's actually more effective for me to do things that generate momentum, get momentum, and then do these other things than it is to like just try to push myself into doing other things right away when I don't have momentum. So I'm kind of in this momentum building phase right now. But the way that I do a lot of that momentum building is by playing some game and not allowing my mind to remind me that it's a total waste of time.
Yeah, well, if that builds momentum for you, then that's functional.
It does, because I do it in very much so like a very organized way, and you're handling all of the things. Everything's very organized. You're scripting, like, you know, all these kinds of things where it's like I'm doing very logical, ordered processes, very much so managing shit. You know what I mean?
Let's bring that into a relatable dynamic. What is the game, or what type of game is it, and what kind of scripts are you writing to alter or affect that game? For example,
well, I'm basically writing well, you could just call it bots, right? So like, it's not this, but you could just imagine a character in a World of Warcraft game, and imagine that character being played by a fully automated script that basically handles gathering information from the game or the server, and based off of the information that it gathers, making what is effectively decisions. So I'm functionally coding AI.
Interesting. Wait, so okay, so you're saying you and people like you can take WoW characters, create a script to actually play the character for you?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
No shit. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That totally makes sense. No wonder so many people get so much gear and all that other shit on it. It sounds like they're scripting additional characters, so you just have basically made multiple fractals of yourself to achieve whatever goals you want to achieve in the game.
There definitely is people that do that. For instance, in the specific scripting language that I'm using right now, there's a guy on the forums that he runs like 48 WoW accounts at the same time.
Uh-huh.
But they're not actually, so it's like halfway scripting, right? So a lot of the times in this, what you'll basically do is you'll run like a pilot account, but that account has the ability to control every other account through basically sending key presses through, well, there's a lot of different ways that you could do this. You could do this internally on your server. The functionality that I'm using right now basically creates a server on a loopback IP and then connects everything to that server on that loopback IP and then utilizes an internet relay chat client to communicate with various different versions of the program that are connected to the IRC client as users. And through those chat commands, you can control the functionality of the software. So they all communicate through basically a chat room. But
Huh.
since the pilot account has access to that chat room and can say things in that chat room, he can tell all of the other clients to do things without
Yeah.
actually going to their account.
Wow. Yeah, that totally makes sense. It sounds really efficient and a lot of fun.
Yeah. So the thing that I'm doing right now is really like I'm running 24 characters right now and basically making them operate as a character that you can play from a single character.
Wow. Awesome. And it's funny because it's not cheating. That's just literally outsmarting the system.
No, the game is just so easy that I can play it 24 times at once.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it too. I like that.
Yes. Well, I mean, it takes training. You know, there's a lot going on. And I mean, like you could limp in to the same thing that I'm kind of doing, and just barely use the functionality. Or you could like actually really do it. I mean, it all depends. It's meaningless in the long run because it's all just for a game. It's not really about that. So my mind is a computer. That's the way that I understand my mind. And as a byproduct of that, my mind actually becomes more functional through my interaction with scripting and programming languages. So when I want my mind to start working better and I want it to be more procedural and I want to build momentum, I can build momentum through basically building programs or building scripts because it's just tuned in to the way that I have perceived my mind since I was like 15 years old. It's literally just a computer.
Yeah. No, that
This
makes sense.
scripting language is actually an open source one that was created by a community that was specifically for one game, but is now used with many games. It's called Macro Quest, but it's not really like other scripting. I mean, it shares loose affiliations with other things. It's not a standard scripting language. I've scripted an awful lot in PHP, SQL, XML, HTML, C++, Java. There's a couple others in there as well that are a little bit more obscure. OpenBSD and FreeBSD.
That
Um,
does that.
a
So
lot of
I'm not.
stuff.
I'm old enough that when I got into school, they had switched over. Maybe we had 1 year of writing cursive, maybe, but then very very early on. I mean, like kindergarten, first grade, or man, I don't know, first, second, third grade, something like that. Where we started doing typing. So I got rid of script
Hmm.
and we're typing. But I was out of school before coding was a normal thing, and I've learned a little bit like early on
Do they
doing
teach
blogs.
coding normally now?
I don't know. I know it's more common. I know.
I mean, I
Uh,
wasn't. I just raised around programmers.
Yeah, that's nice to be around it. So I learned, I picked a lot of it up or whatever. I don't know if it was the more basic, probably Java or something, like doing blogs, right? Just being able to do all the different hashtags to do the bolts and the fonts and all the different scripts and different things and add images and embedding
Yeah, it's
images
probably
and like,
HTML.
okay, yeah, so some of the basic stuff. So I know some of
Yeah,
the
it's
basics,
some
but I
kind
don't
of
know,
markup language.
yeah, the dynamic. So the basically with all the different types of languages is basically instead of doing, I don't even remember what it is now, but just instead of putting things in brackets, you'd use a different type of symbols on the keyboard to have the same outcome effect for the actual user interface,
Yeah.
correct?
And they're all very similar in the sense that like these special characters start gaining usage where they're like a modifier to a variable or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, it's like I don't know, like exclamation point. Most people think of that as like as a thing that comes at the end of a sentence. Inside of programming, it usually means not, basically. So like if
Mhm.
I say exclamation point equal, I'm saying does not equal, is not equal to, right? Or if I
Hmm.
say like I'm calling a command and I say that I want this thing to be at exclamation point front, it means that I want it to be anywhere but the front. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And
Okay.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
it's it's quicker to say exclamation point front than say anywhere but the front. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. The reason that coding is a thing in the first place, instead of writing out ones and zeros for every single symbol on there, you're still just refining it down to be more functional
Right.
and efficient.
Yeah. Trying to simplify for sure. So, anyways, yeah, that's what I'm kind of doing with stuff right now and
Cool.
business planning for Jen a lot. And,
Cool.
anyways,
I love that you're into that stuff, Zach. I mean, I don't know. I guess I seem to get excited about whatever anybody's excited about. It really interests me, and I like understanding why you're excited about it. And there's always overlapping things that interest me, or I learn things that apply to my own life. So that's cool, Zach.
yeah, your mind functionally operates like a like a scripting language or a programming language. It's so
Mm.
similar that really like I mean learning coding I think is actually very beneficial to any person just because it gives you like the idea so we talk about the idea that our minds are conditioned and or programmed or that we're running some kind of program or like I'm doing that because of my past trauma. That's kind of like saying that I had a program installed and that
Hmm.
program is running and it's causing this result. If we have the ability to recode that and we understand some kind of way to basically mechanize that, then, I personally have found it very beneficial for like, I mean, I've literally thought about the resculpting of my mind as literally being reprogramming my mind where I'm just writing
Right.
new code and I'm just like, oh, well, that script, macro, a plugin, add-on, that thing's fucking buggy. We're gonna have to rip that thing out and go back to the drawing board, write it up the right way, and install that. And
Okay, was
yeah,
it is I would imagine, I mean, I'd be curious to your reaction to it. I know enough about coding, I guess, or the dynamics you're talking about. I may refer to my own subconscious subroutines and different algorithms or things, using that analogy a lot because it totally resonates. When I saw the Matrix for the first time, when he actually was on the Nebuchadnezzar and you're seeing what they see, right? All the code. And he's
yeah,
like, oh,
just
I just
code
see,
streaming
he
down.
goes, but now I just see blonde, brunette, like whatever,
Sure.
but it's code. And they think about we're being projecting our consciousness into a body or a vessel or a matrix, all ones and
Mm-hmm.
zeros down to a advanced biology level, which is just advanced code, if you will.
Yeah.
So totally makes sense to me. It's a cool way to
You
do
very
it.
much so can do that, and one way that's kind of easy to see how the mind starts doing it is actually to just open up a piece of code from. It does not matter what kind of program, but open it up in this. Well, in any good coding editor, but one that like I use is Notepad plus plus, and inside of Notepad plus plus, a lot of times like. Well, things that you know exactly what it is all the time, anyways. Like it'll have that like blocked in some kind of color. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So like where it's whatever, like it's calling a function or something. The function will be like it will have a blocked color so that when you're like if you're trying to scroll through the code, you can see that like, oh, okay, well, I know that things are here, right? But like the programmer's mind already starts working like that anyways, where they just like they see kind of the shape of the text in that area and they know like okay it's probably calling a function here it's parsing some type of text here these things like this because you just like start to recognize the shape of it and then you know what it's doing on a more well, on another level. I don't know that it's a more complex level or anything. This is another one,
Yeah,
but
I know what you're saying. Yeah, and the same thing. I mean, you probably see enough code. You just look at a screen of code. You can actually see depending on the context of the code or whatever the application, you can see what that's doing for the avatar, for the character, you can see the
sure,
imagery that it's going to eventually be or that it is.
yeah.
That's cool.
I mean, even at like the minor level where you can see very easy that like this section right here is clearly where they're determining the character's stats. And this section right here is clearly where they're determining the character's like whatever, the way that the character visually looks. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or something like that. So you can just tell that there's these like little subsections. It's very easy to see that like right now I'm looking at what the person looks like. Right now I'm looking at what the person has in their bank, right? Or something like
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean?
And it's like that dynamic. That's what makes I forgot his name, but in 2003 he came out with a simulation theory based on all this science and evidence. But since then, I mean, just that permeating the morphogenic field of consciousness around the world. Movies like The Matrix, it's really easy to see. We look at our DNA, you can see the code, the
Sure.
actual things, the epigenetic
Yeah, we
expression
even
that
call it
changes
genetic
the
code. So,
right.
yeah.
Interesting.
Science wants to call everything a code, though, because like code is like a weird way that we basically say like we understand it but don't understand it. It's just code. It's like, yeah, like the cryptographical kind, or
Yeah, what kind of code there, yo?
what kind of code we talking about there, bud? Like a cipher?
See, Willow
So,
said she was born in 2000 and she had to learn cursive. Definitely didn't learn coding in school. Were you in Canada? Did you grow up in Canada? Because it'd be interesting, the different schooling systems. And I know, like Germany, for example, I think around the fifth grade that they determine whether you're more, what's the word I'm looking for, academically inclined or to go into some kind of trade or something working with your hands. So like early on, your aptitude, just based on your own just you-ness, they direct your life path down something you actually would enjoy and do. Whereas in America, it's like you have to get a degree and everybody has to have an academic something, which, then they work at McDonald's. So obviously we didn't structure our schooling system very well, did we?
yeah, probably not so great. Don't get me started on the educational system, though. Yeah.
Nope, Canada
Anyways,
born and raised.
I'm gonna head out of here. It's been real. I think.
Cool. Yeah,
What
it
does
was a
real
solid hour.
mean? You know?
I
What
don't know,
is
but it was
that?
fun watching you be passionate about a diversity of things this whole night. So I think that was pretty real.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, something that I recognized today. Well, I didn't really recognize it today. I worded it in a way that it's been now rolling around in my head. And I'm going to just basically say it with no context. Just leave it for something for people to think about if they made this far. But just that, just because something seems like it's really happening doesn't mean that happenings are actually real. So, you know.
Just say it again. Say it again.
Just because something is really happening doesn't mean that happenings are actually real.
All right. I'll take that one if you want it.
All right. I love you guys. I hope you have a
Love you, Zach.
wonderful night. I'm going to go hang out with this dog in my mind. Arf. Bye.
Awesome. Bye. Hi guys. So I'm silhouetted out because there's a sunset behind me, and that's really cool. So that's why. And what's going on there? I want to say hello to the nobody because the nobody was late because the nobody was digging holes. We don't know if this nobody is male or female or one of the other 52 gender pronouns, I think, that Facebook has incorporated or something. But welcome. And it sounds like you're here before, so maybe just shoot your name and your avatar or something. But yeah, welcome. And we got Willow and Jacob and Zach posted in there. Weird stuff happened on my end. Sorry, the sound cut out from it. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, plus my Wi-Fi was cutting in and out. So really good to see you guys. We'll probably just wrap this one up here for tonight. There's a couple things coming up. We've got tomorrow night. We've got Jenny Glover is going to be doing a show called Down the Rabbit Hole, and that'll start tomorrow, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And that'll be her first episode. She's gonna talk about her life and just who she is and what she's interested in and what the show's about. And so that'll be starting tomorrow. She's gonna start, I think, with we're working on her overlays and things for her show. She's gonna start with just the expand understanding overlay and do that. And then my sister, we're working on some more. I think she's doing some kind of. I think she's making like an ice cream cake, and then like banana bread something. I don't know. She knows. It's her show, so she's excited because it's gonna be like we're gonna film some stuff tonight, like prep, and then we'll film some more stuff tomorrow, and then we got to put it together. So when we air it, this one we might actually air like do a short live intro, and then play the video that we made, and then be in the on our phones in the chat during the show. So that's coming up, and that's Mouthful from Mandy. So that'll be coming up another episode of that. And yeah, so we got cool stuff coming up in the days ahead. Lots of diversity from people. So whatever floats your boat. And we have a lot of options and things to look into. So I always appreciate your time. Appreciate you guys being here. We have links below in the chat for social media, for the group, and for Facebook stuff, and Instagram, for Patreon, for the Shipibo people helping support one of the original indigenous peoples in South America. $4.50 feeds the family for a month. $4.50 feeds the village for a month. So we have a lot of things like that continually going on, as well as Zach and I are also living our own lives and while figuring out how to do a podcast 4 nights a week and have that be something that is functional, entertaining, beneficial, fun for us and for people involved. So we love you guys very much. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening, and we will see you all again next time. Bye.